Calling all beings, y'all. Let's get it.
Put your hands together. Put your hands together.
Welcome back to Calling All Beings. It's good to have everyone with us this evening. I am Nathan, and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host, the wonderful Kevin Flarius. Kevin, how's it going?
It's going great. How you doing?
Excellent. I'm doing well.
All right.
Loving the new headphones. We've been talking a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I wanted to match the occasion, have some UAP on my face, you know.
Just fantastic. They look terrific.
Thank you.
Matches everything. And Deb, how are you this evening? Deb, Study of UAPs.
Yes, I'm doing great. How's everybody? Everyone's good? Yay.
Doing well, man. It's been a good week. It's been gosh, I can't believe that March is coming to a close. I don't know where it went. Like we're already a quarter of the way through the year here. Just absolutely bonkers to me. But we've got an amazing show for folks tonight. We are joined by two incredible people in the community whose names I know everybody will recognize. So one, we've got Jess Rogge of the Rogge Report, Escape the Simulation. And we've also got Enzo Cyrille. And Enzo is a retired Air Force. And he's a real person. He's not just a positivity bot that shows up all over everyone's channels, which I know is a lot of people think he's the Enzo botnet. But he is a real person and a fantastic person at that. And we are grateful to have both of these fine humans with us this evening. And I'm going to bring them on stage. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Excellent. So welcome to Calling All Beings. And as we talked about backstage, normally we've got DJ with us, our host that gives the amazing kind of WWE, WWF introduction. I am not going to try. I can't. I've tried before. I've failed. So it's not going to happen. So hopefully we will maybe we'll record one of those for you guys as a later on a gift if you really want that full DJ experience. He is for our listeners wondering where he is this evening. He is chasing a cat that has gotten stuck inside the walls. You heard that right, the walls of his house. So the cab team has already received photos of drywall coming apart, and it just, man, good luck, DJ. That's all I have to say. Hope you find that cat. Hopefully he will join us as well, but if not, we wish you well, DJ, in that search. So I want to get started. Jess, let's start with you.
Sure.
I have a couple things I want to say about your show. One, I love that you've got this kind of wide spectrum of coverage. You know, you're talking about a lot of topics that if you're kind of heavy in the UFO side of the high strangeness or whatever, you may ignore a lot of the kind of paranormal aspects. And you seem to be very comfortable not just covering them, but really diving into them. And is that something that, you've always had an interest in, or did that kind of evolve over time?
I think it evolved. When I did my first show, I was a little more paranormal and talked a little bit more about these high strangeness things. And then when I did my second show, I kind of threw all that away and I went hardcore into nuts and bolts. But recently I've kind of been like, you know what? I want to get back into talking about the more strange things like remote viewing, consciousness, dreams, meditation, things like that, because it's all, you find the more you look at it, and if you keep an open mind, you kind of see that there is a connection between these different things. And I think that's what my goal is with the show, is to kind of say like, hey, why don't you look at this person, just listen, you don't have to believe everything, but just take in the information and then make your decisions.
Yeah, totally. Have you found that the folks in kind of those different pockets are they themselves kind of merging into other areas they wouldn't have been in before?
I think they're getting really interested in talking to UFO shows too, because like they people who work in those types of in the more paranormal side of things, they feel it's all connected. They, they see all the connections. So I think it kind of opens them up to kind of look at the other side of ufology as well.
It is funny because the paranormal people that I'm familiar with do seem to be like, we're waiting for the rest of you to catch up to us. Because when you look at it from that consciousness connection, that paranormality, it is more of an umbrella kind of approach to the topic than the UFOs, which has traditionally been either the kind of nuts and bolts technology angle or the kind of hard sci-fi ETs from somewhere else. They don't. It's like taken a while for that crowd to kind of come along to the paranormal aspects.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think people who are hardcore nuts and bolts have a little harder of a time with being open to these types of things. So it's difficult. It's difficult to say like if there will be a big change or if a lot of people will look into. But I think I see a lot of people being interested in the more consciousness side of things.
Right. I love it. I love it. And I love that you're promoting that and getting into it. I think, honestly, from my perspective, that's where this is going. It's going kind of to that direction. And we've been seeing a lot of that recently from folks like Jim Semivan, who've been more open about his experience, from folks like John Ramirez and his personal experience with the encounters. And of course, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. That book gets a lot of sort of laughter and chuckles, but if you've been familiar with the paranormal side of it and very comfortable with kind of what's going on over there, the things that you read about in that book don't seem that strange and don't seem that off-putting, as I think a lot of the kind of nuts and bolts ufologists seem to paint it as.
No, I would agree with that. I think what a lot of people like to look at too is just the Skinwalker Ranch as an example of a place where all this different phenomenon occurs. And, from what I understand, I can't name anywhere, but there's other places in this world on this planet that, where the veil is thinner, where all these things can happen in the same place. So it's very interesting to see like books like Skinwalkers at the Pentagon get a little deeper into these cases, that have been reported that are pretty strange.
Yeah. 100%. Well, let me switch gears real quick to Enzo. So Enzo, thank you for being on the show, and everyone who's watched any of the shows in this community will recognize your name, your constant presence in the chat, and we thank you very much for your support. So, like, what has brought you to this topic, and also how do you do it? Do you have a clone? Do you have multiple computers running? I mean, we really want the answers here. How do you pull this off? How are you everywhere all the time?
Well, a good magician never reveals all their tricks, but as far as what got me into this, as a young kid, just always had an interest in. I remember distinctly going with a group of friends when I was very young to the theaters. There was a movie that was in there. It was Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and I guess it was just aliens in general, or UFOs. Mm. And I remember just kind of getting sucked into that world and was fascinated by it. And when I was about 10, I did see what would be a UFO. It would be a light in the sky kind of a thing. And when I started asking around school the next day, because it was in a very public area, a lot of people should have seen it. It was like, oh, you're the UFO kid now. And it's like, okay, maybe I won't say anything else.
Wow.
About it. But always had that interest, and as I got older, I've always been an insomniac. So listening to the radio all night long, Art Bell, of course, comes in, just hours listening to him and enjoying his show where he discusses all of these topics. It's always kind of been there in the back of my head. But recently I kind of was just mostly a standard nuts and bolts UFO guy. The Loch Ness Monster fell off a long time ago, and Bigfoot, I've been out in the woods, you hear weird things. I don't know about that. But I'm also a big fan of the TV show Survivor Man with Les Stroud.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, he came out and he's like, hey, I think it's plausible that there could be even if you go as far as saying it's just a large gorilla type of thing, or whatever, that it's possible something like that could survive in. And he did several specials on it. And that kind of turned me around. It's like, well, if he believes it, this person that, week after week, goes surviving for a week out in the middle of crazy situations, if he thinks it's possible, then who am I to say he's wrong? And it kind of opened the floodgates a little bit, and started looking more into like everyone else the last couple of years. You're sitting around, you've seen everything on Netflix, you've seen all that stuff. It's like, well, what's going on YouTube? And discovered this huge selection of pop-up YouTube channels about these very topics. And as we mentioned, the Skinwalker show, and just the stories about that. And as Jess rightly pointed out, there's other places that are similar to that around the world. That how could it just be, 20 different things all happening in this like 20-acre property? There's something else going on there. So that's when I kind of took my dive in on everybody's different YouTube channels and try and catch all of them live. That's what attracts me, is the live part where they interact with the fans in the chat. Hi, chat.
Yes, big shout out to the chat.
I see like 20 different names that I normally would be like, hi, how are you doing? Hi, how you doing? Hi, how you doing? By this point, and usually about this stage of the show is when your fingers are worn out and everybody's done all their hellos and we can actually listen to what's going on in the show. So.
Yes, no, big shout out to the audience. Deb is she's coming back. She has some glitching issues, but I wanted to ask you about, actually kind of get both your takes on this, because you kind of brought this up, Enzo. The shift that we've seen over the last really decade, maybe a little bit less, of where our content is now coming. We can consume content now that is not coming directly through the traditional channels, and you see a lot of the content creators that are kind of coming out of the similar generation. We kind of grew up with, like you mentioned, the same kinds of things, and it's like we're entering this phase in which we're now feeling comfortable in our own lives, where we are in our careers or wherever, just to kind of, we're going there. We're gonna create content. We're gonna ask these questions. We're gonna have these shows, explore these topics, and that process itself is like an invitation. Like it's an invitation for people to say, I've had something similar. This is what I've seen. How do you kind of contextualize this? You described it a little bit, but what do you see the trajectory looking like here as this kind of proliferation of content becomes the norm, and the more we embrace this subject? Do you see it getting weirder than it is now? Do you see it becoming kind of more normalized? How do you look at that?
Is that for me or for Jess?
Yeah, go ahead and take that one. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take that. As far as the last part of your question, I see it getting much weirder. Especially if you're going to say, okay, all of it's related. The one explanation for all of it, it's got to be way beyond what we could even comprehend at this point, without inventing new science, or at least thought processes to how that it would even exist or work. Much less the science of how stuff flies around. Flies.
Right.
But it's the thing I love about our little community is it's just regular people. It's not somebody shilling a book. It's not somebody that has a movie coming out. It's not approved sources that you don't believe on other things that you know about. But if they talk about something else, oh, okay, now I understand. No, it's still the same weak source from the beginning. But it's just us. It's us. It's our own people. It's like a group of friends gathered around the campfire, telling tales, to each other. The phenomenon in general is one of the big sticking points for the normies outside looking in, is that lack of evidence. We don't have that ship part we can pull up. We don't have the you see, the portal always appears right here that the Bigfoot jumps out of. We don't really have that, as nice as that would be. So all we can do is share our encounters and look to the past at things that have occurred to maybe try and piece together something on our own. Now, the federal government has started up their own program again and seems to be taking it seriously. We'll see what they have to tell us later in the year, or really realistically, probably more like next year. They're still setting everything up. I don't expect to hear a whole lot out of them.
Right.
But
Love
the civilian groups, I think, is where we'll probably hear something substantial from first, like Galileo and UAPX and so forth. So
it does seem like a bit of a horse race there, right? I mean, we've got a lot of groups in the swim lane. I'm mixing a lot of metaphors here, but they're out of the gate and they're chasing stuff. Do you have, if you were to put a bet, do you have a sense of which one might find something first?
Ooh, which one's going to be in the lead? That's a tough one. I know UAPX has a lot of good folks in it, and it seems like every other week we're hearing about new people getting added to the Galileo team. So that's kind of tough. And I feel like we've heard a little bit more, at least as far as some of their tech and some of the stuff from UAPX, because a lot of them actually hang out in our own chats and we'll pop on some shows. We haven't heard as much from Galileo, which doesn't mean they're not doing anything. They're just not telling us, which I can get, because you got, Avi Loeb, actual scientist. They're going to collect all the data and present it at the end. They're not going to tell us what's going on like right now. So,
right. No, that's a great point. Well, Jess, how do you view this sort of transition? You've been in the game, you are in the game, you're creating content, and you've seen the community kind of go through some different stages, right? And I love how Enzo put it. It's very much, really, it's more of a campfire conversation. That's how I certainly look at it. It's less like we're doing an official thing. We're really just having a chat. And so how do you view that kind of trajectory away from mainstream content to this really kind of democratization of voices, and your part in that, and where you think it's going?
Well, I think like when I first entered the podcast thing, because I come from a different background than a lot of other people. I actually studied broadcast journalism. So for me, I actually had pursued a career in mainstream journalism prior to this.
Nice.
But I did not really want to go work in that system. So I ended up working, for Video Game Channel, which was way more fun. And once that kind of ended, I went and did my own thing, and podcasting kind of started to pick up. And, I actually got into it because, I'd listened to Coast to Coast, Art Bell, and then I listened to Nori. I got into Jimmy Church. I listened to Joe Roop. I listened to all these people. And I'm like, man, I want to be like that. I want to talk about these things. And I want to be a show where people can tune in and learn something from like all these different people. And that's what I always wanted. So I think for me, that was a little different, and now I can talk about how I've seen the changes, because I've been in the community a little bit longer than some and shorter than others. But when I first entered the community, it was a lot of like unprovable things. There were a lot of people claiming stories and saying things and asking for money for information. Not that there's people not doing that now, but I've seen a shift. And as I remember when the Stars Academy stuff started, and I was like, why is Tom DeLonge? Why Tom DeLonge? But you could see as it went, it got more people interested or more people comfortable to talk about it. And you kind of saw UFO Twitter kind of take off. And this shift from this super kind of woo, like secret 20 and back to Mars and all this and that stuff kind of went to the wayside. And we had people like Lou Elizondo, whatever you think of him, but people like him coming forward and saying like, we have this information and releasing these videos. And that's a lot different than what we had back then. So with that, the shift kind of came to where we were going more nuts and bolts and looking for more information. And you've seen, and I've, witnessed all these creators kind of blossom from that. And I think it's a wonderful thing to hear all these different voices talking to different people and bringing other people in, because for a long time you're listening to the same people get talked to over and over again. And now we have a whole bunch of people, new researchers, new hosts. It's quite amazing.
Yeah. How do you approach the kind of divisiveness that seems to kind of rear its head every once in a while? Because I hear from what you're saying there that the value of the different voices and kind of validating different perspectives. And our show is about that. We are about kind of respecting everybody's journey and elevating a positive message. We're all in this together. Heck, if we had the answers, we wouldn't be on a show like this. We'd be on 60 Minutes or CNN or whatever it is, telling the world about it. So we're all seeking something, but this tribalism that we see happen so often. What's the source of that? How do we kind of overcome that?
I think at the end of the day, it's one word, and it's ego. It's people's egos. And unfortunately, that's something people have to work on themselves. And this type of work attracts egos too. They're like, I did this, respect me for this. Or you're stupid for this. But what I do is I don't go on UFO Twitter. And then I start seeing I'll look at it and I'm like, well, what is this? To to me, it's energy draining. There's no reason for it. Talk about the information, talk about experiences. We're not, I don't see the reason to fight.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's in every community people fight.
That's
honest.
true. Yeah, Enzo, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel that social media in general, we'll just stick with Twitter because that's the thing most folks are familiar with, is basically the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And no matter what the topic, whether it's politics, sports, UFOs, Bigfoot, knitting, water skiing, it doesn't matter. There are polarized people on either side of the topic, extreme one way and an extreme another. And that's who's making the most noise. You've got that other, 80% that's in the middle that is basically just trying to keep their head down and not get canceled. Mm-hmm. And it's, with our own stuff in our own like UFO Twitter world, it seems to me like there's like maybe a dozen or 20 instigators. I'm not saying they're doing it intentionally or it's some secret government plot. That's a whole other web, thing. People going down that road, but it's that are just jerks. I wish there was a nicer way to say it, but it's their opinion's always right, you're always wrong. Whatever. Everything's an A or a B. Everything's black and white. There's no gray gradient between. And if you're not with me, you're against me kind of attitude for either side of the spectrum, for any topic. It's what makes Twitter and social media in general just kind of unbearable for a lot of people. That's why everyone on the planet isn't using it. The idea behind it is fantastic. You could actually, an alien race should be able to look at, if there was just one like Twitter, and it's like, okay, this is, an amalgamation of all of humanity, what we see here. And what do they see? And it's aggravating. It should be almost like a hive mind, getting the temperature of everybody. It's okay to disagree. It's especially for this topic, because for the most part, it's mostly, eyewitness statements, a couple of grainy photographs, some radar imagery, and a ton of personal accounts. Mm-hmm. And that's what we got right now to work with. Yeah. So sharing those stories, and if it happens to be something that doesn't align to someone, they get shouted down. Well, now they're not going to share again. Much like my own story of seeing the UFO when I was a kid. I didn't want to talk to anybody else and be the weirdo. Mm-hmm. It's that same thing, just on a grander scale.
Yeah, so well said. Well, I've taken up some time on the floor. Kevin, do you want to ask some questions?
Wow, man, just your conversation, the way you approached all those questions, Nathan, was fantastic. In fact, they answered a lot of the questions during that conversation. So I have actually a comical lightning round at the end of, maybe towards the end of the show I was going to do. Kind of stole Deb's idea. Sorry, Deb, I feel kind of guilty about that.
No, it's not patented, I promise.
Okay.
Lightning rounds for everyone. That's right.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to complain about this on Twitter.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So that's the thing. I've kind of really backed off Twitter. It's been a couple weeks. I'm just on there. I drop the promos and that's it now. Right. It's the tribalism. It just kills me. It's like, I'm there for the UFOs. I'm there for the flying saucers and not the drama. Right. I'm like, I'll just watch more History Channel, less Twitter. It's fine with me.
Less fighting.
Yeah. So, we were talking earlier about motivations. Like, both of you, actually. I will start with Jess. I'd like to know what motivated you to really the direction of your podcast.
What? No, please. That's
go ahead.
No, great question, Kevin. No, because I think I could have gone any way I wanted to, but but for me, it was, all these, because I haven't had like UFO-y experiences or anything like that. But this whole journey actually began for me because I had a lot of questions about my own abilities, as far as like psychic abilities and getting into that. And the way for me to learn was to jump into this
Mhm.
and find out more. And it led here, and I was into conspiracies. It was like I dove into this whole thing, and I was like, this is what I want to talk about. Because if I talk about this stuff that I've experienced and I know, maybe somebody out there will learn something. Maybe some conversation I have with a guest will spark somebody or help somebody to look into something that they needed to look into. So for me, my motivation is really kind of like thinking of myself out there years ago, listening and looking for answers and direction. So
Mhm.
that's what motivates me.
All right. So you want some clarification, basically. Okay. So do I. I'm in it for
Yeah.
the same reason. I just got questions. I want some answers to my
Amen.
questions. Yeah. All right. The same question, I guess, for you, but it's more different. I wanted to know, you obviously have that military background. Now you mentioned you were in the Air Force. I wanted to know what motivated you to join the military.
Ooh, good
Oh,
question.
well, for me, I joined up in December of 1985, stayed in for 24 years, retired December of 2009. And originally it was just going to, because I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, and in the early mid 80s, the economy wasn't so great. And the town that I lived in, the steel mill was basically going to shut down. And I was seeing 40-year-old men bagging groceries at the local Kroger to try and make money to support their family, because that's all they could get. Kind of a thing. It's like, okay, I got nowhere to go when I get out of high school, so I'll join the military. And they've got the GI Bill and things like that, so that'll give me a few years of living my life, maybe earn a few dollars for my pocket, and get money for college and all that. And ended up joining up and started traveling right away and loving it.
Cool. How do you think that your military experience influenced your thinking about the high strangeness?
Well, my job, I was, to put it simply, I was an aircraft mechanic. I was a KC-135 crew chief. A KC-135 is one of the planes that refuels other planes in the air. Traveled a lot, saw a lot of different places, saw a lot of different cultures, saw a lot of different airplanes, saw a lot of things that, I don't know any secrets, and I don't have an NDA to hide behind, but that's the other guy. But it's, I saw some things that were, considered classified. And as far as talking that, it's not something I can blab about, but it's something you could probably figure out on your own if you looked around hard enough on the internet. But as far as in 1990, it was either late 98 or 99, early 99. I was living in Wichita, Kansas, saw a friend, was over at a friend's house, lived in the middle of the city, standing in his backyard. I'm an astronomy nerd. So anytime I'm outside at night, I'm looking up. And while I was sitting there, for the long story short, I basically saw a black triangle. And It's like,
wow,
that's not something I've ever seen before. I know how planes work. I know how, that goes. And it had no lights, made no sound. The only reason I was even, because it was all blacked out against the sky, I think the lights from the city were kind of underlighting the bottom of it a little bit. And the only way I was even sure I was even seeing it was blocking out stars as it was going. So it was something solid. And I had zero explanation for what that could have been from my experience with aviation, from flying, or even the mechanical side of it. Of what was that? And that kind of spurred things up a little bit, but and that was in late 99 or sometime in 99-ish. And a couple of years later, some other things kind of came up in world events that I had kind of got distracted from that. But when I retired, I still had I've always had these questions in the back of my head, but much like Jess said, and what I feel is the basics for our whole community is we just want to know what's going on.
Yep.
What is
That's
this?
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it that's bringing us all together, negative and positively? It's all that one thing.
Yep. Just need that one thing.
Yeah.
Love that. All right, Deb, what you got?
Okay, so I would like to know, Jess, since you work on all of it, basically trying to capture everything, what do you think is going on? Like if you could summarize what you think is going on, what is the phenomenon?
Let me preface it by saying I have no real clue at all, and my theories change constantly based on like what I'm looking into. But I can say right now, in my theory, I have no basis for this other than maybe. But I've been talking to a lot of people, and the way that I'm hearing from people is that there is a phenomenon out there, and how we perceive it is what it comes out to be. So an example people use is like back in the 1800s, right? We used to see airships, and and you move forward into like the 40s, then they're all like flying saucers, and then we move towards, and then we get the Betty and Barney Hill story with the Greys, and then there's a lot of Greys in like the 80s that are being reported, and then now it's like more Tic Tacs, so now we're seeing a lot of Tic Tacs and stuff. So is it that their ships have changed, or is it that that's what we perceive it? We don't even know what we're looking at, but that's what our brain picks it up as. So it's a very interesting way of looking at it, but that would join the phenomenon together. And, that would explain things like seeing a UFO, seeing a ghost, seeing a Bigfoot, seeing a shadow person. Other theory, interdimensional stuff. There's a world we don't know. And that's the thing. We don't really know. So it could be absolutely anything. It could be everything you think it is. It could be guys from space. It could be guys from other dimensions. It could be ghost aliens. Like what,
Ooh, ghost aliens. I
Whoa,
like that one.
yeah,
I
like
hadn't
that.
thought of ghost aliens. Actually, I have heard of them though. There are stories about them.
Interesting. I will have to look that up, or you'll have to send me a link.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think
laser sharks.
that's part of, I think it was Bushman's tale of how we interact with ET. He mentioned that one had died, and then he showed a picture of like what was supposed to be the ghost hanging around the other one.
It's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Levels to this, if you start to think about it, and there's Bigfoot ghosts, there's a Loch Ness monster ghost. Everything has a ghost too. So many levels.
Do ghosts have ghosts?
What about you, Enzo? What is, from your slightly more nuts and bolts perspective, what do you think's going on?
Well, Jess actually has hit on the main ones that I've considered myself. I mean, the perception thing is definitely there's something there, because our eyes, our own senses, our eyes, our ears, our nose, our sense of touch and taste, are fairly limited, especially compared with other animals on the planet. Not to say that we're specialized or anything like that, but we have limits. So your brain can only process so much, and it kind of filters out the unnecessary stuff. We've all gotten into our car, driven down to the grocery store, shopped around, and came back. Were there clouds in the sky? Did they look like anything in particular? How many birds did you see? What was the color of the shirt of the person that was parked next to you at the red light? These are all things that were around you. You could observe them, but your brain kind of filters that out. It's like, I don't need to know that. That's not important. I feel that seeing something zipping by in the sky, well, first you'd have to look up, which is the main problem, because social media has taught us to do this all the time. But even if you did see something, it was a bird or a plane or Superman or something, I don't know. And so I feel that there is an element of, it's beyond your understanding. You're working on something else. Just ignore it. We've all gone out and bought a new car or a new to you car. And, you did your research, you found a car you liked. Okay, there it is. I'll buy it. As soon as you start driving around, you start seeing your car everywhere. I didn't know there were so many of whatever it is you're driving. They've always been there, but because now you own one and you're used to that context and its shape and everything else, you start noticing it at other places. So the perception thing, I think it's fairly high on my list. There could be stuff zipping around all the time, and maybe there always has been. It's just we're too busy, hunting and gathering at one point or sending mean tweets on today. But and again, much like Jess said, the interdimensional side, that kind of answers everything.
It does, right?
For cryptids and ghosts and UFOs and aliens and the Fae, everything. Yeah.
Everything.
It's that's the catch-all for everything.
And some people who seem to be in the know definitely feel wormholes are the answer for how they get here.
Yeah, if it's and even for like places like Skinwalker Ranch, where you've got that thinning of the veil type of concept, where they just kind of slip into our reality for a minute and maybe slip back out. That interdimensional thing really does answer that. I've never been a big fan of like it's us from the future or whatever, or and then there's a dozen other things, and none of them are really wrong because we can't prove any of them.
Who the knows?
Exactly. It's all theorizing at this point, but if you want to catch all for everything, those parallel worlds, interdimensional idea, you get someone to invent the portal gun from Rick and Morty, and we'll have our answers. We'll go there ourselves.
Yes. I love Rick and Morty. Good reference.
Great show.
And that is the reference that I usually tell people about. It's like, look at the wackiness, all the wacky characters they run into just in a single episode on that show. Why is that any different from us going, okay, it's grays, it's reptilians, it's tall blondes, it's whatever. The list goes on and on. Yeah, we see that in the show because that's the basis of it, is they're going to these alternate parallel worlds and timelines and everything else. And yeah, that's what it would be like. That's why I was earlier saying it's like, it's going to be so weirdly cosmic. We can't even imagine it.
Yeah. And we're already part of it. It's just that we have no awareness, so
yeah,
as our awareness expands, I kind of wonder, like, do you think that in your own personal experience, and Enzo, we can start with you, and then Jess, I definitely want to get your take on this. The kind of plunge into high strangeness, the willingness to accept it, does that change the way you look at people, human people? So just people generally, can you become more accepting of different people's differences because of that, or I'm just curious about that.
If you'd asked me even like 2 years ago, probably, it's like, well, this person says that they can talk to the dead and they can see ghosts, or they've communicated with aliens, or all these things, and be like, yeah, okay, that's great. And that would kind of be the rest of it. But now, and again, that interdimensional thing, that kind of opens it all up. You at least got to hear somebody out. Did they imagine something? Maybe do basic detective work. Maybe a few basic questions without insulting whatever their experience was, just to make sure we were all talking about the same thing. But today it's like, I will listen to anyone's story, no matter what it is or how different it may seem, because we kind of have to at this point, because there's so many different things. And if they're all from like the one source, we have to take all of that into account.
Yeah, for sure. Jess, what about you?
I just lost it. I held it the whole time. I was like, I got my words. the plunge into high strangeness. No, I did, it was really hard for me for a long time because like I told you, or I said earlier, I stayed very nuts and bolts. I tried to
Mhm.
stay very grounded for years. And with that, I was hiding parts of myself and experiences that I had myself. And now that I've kind of been more open about that, I think I cannot deny things that have happened to me. Thus, I cannot deny things that people say have happened to them because I know the things that happened to me were freaking real.
Mhm.
And that's even from, like, we're talking even, from UAP experiences to alien experiences to ghost experiences to cryptid experiences, shadow people, or different beings. Because I've always said, I was like, when we talk about disclosure, you have to disclose everything. That humans also have this amazing ability to connect consciously in the dream world, remote view. One thing like that is really amazing and I think people are going to get into is like how amazing people actually are
Hmm.
and
Well,
how
right.
powerful we are and how connected we are.
I feel like it
I
redeems us, doesn't it? I mean, like our willingness to accept these things actually it brings us closer together. It should, it should place a greater value on the things that you experience and that I experience. That we're not quick to judge. We're quick to listen. I feel like that's important, and it frustrates me when I see a lot more judging happening than listening. And I think you can listen and still in your own self, exercise some discernment. But being so quick to kind of like come at people and say, well, I mean, your experience is just too weird for me. I'm only okay with spaceships that materialize out of thin air and disappear and come from the far side of the universe. But this other stuff that you talk about, that's a bridge too far.
Yeah, and I think everybody has their limits. What was interesting, I had Robert Bosnak on a couple weeks ago, and he's a Jungian psychologist, and he does like phenomenology. So basically, what his job is he talks to people who has experiences, and what he says is, I view these experiences as real because these experiences happen to these people, and this is like, it's a doctor, man.
Mhm.
So, we look at these people, you guys can check out that episode because the way he explains it is like, no, I'm looking at this as this happened to this person. Their experience is real. And I think people being able to be open, I mean, maybe you don't have to be if you're not into it, but if you're into it, learning about people's experiences, you find out so much more.
100%.
Right.
Yep.
I just wanted to chime in a little because the things that you're talking about really go into the realm of mental health. Not only the doctor's perspective, of course, that see these experiences as real, it's beneficial to the person, the observer, right? But also just like for our own people who may not have any kind of mental illness per se, it still helps our mental health if we just accept the reality of what's going on with us. And I think a lot of people try to close this part off and pretend it's not part of being human. But there's a reason so many people have like psychic dreams or see ghosts or see UAPs. Something's going on. A lot of us have that gut instinct, intuition. I tend to get lost and I use my gut instinct to get unlost, and it always works. So, why does that happen? So, there's something that maybe we don't scientifically understand yet, but it is part of us, and repressing it is ridiculous.
Oh, here.
So well said. How in the kinds of activities that you guys are involved in, just through the show, Enzo through the support that you provide shows, and you are on shows too. You're a frequent presence, which I think is great. What are some things that you each try to do and bring to the conversation to elevate this and kind of help steer us away from the vitriol and the arrow slinging?
Enzo?
Oh, that one to me first? Sure. For me, I use my own past experiences, aircraft mechanics, aviation travel, The last part of my career I spent in the wing safety office, which a big part of that involves wildlife control on the airfield. So basically keeping birds from flying in front of airplanes. So I've got thousands of hours of staring at the sky, looking at planes, birds of all different types. Where I live in Kansas, it's the central flyway for most migratory birds in the country, and I see all of it. It's from eagles to pelicans, and it's bananas what I see. But seeing photography of all of these things, looking at them through binoculars, my own experience for my own hobby of staring at stuff in the stars, that all kind of equates out to when someone sees something weird and holds that cell phone up to try and capture it, I can at least tell them what it isn't. That's what I feel I kind of bring to it as far as my personal experience. I've had a couple of, seen a light in the sky when I was a kid, and a black shape that was kind of wedge shaped once in the 90s. And that doesn't mean that I'll listen to anybody, as I said before, but if it sounds like there's something they have a problem with, there are avenues to try and direct them to maybe seek some help if they're having trouble processing that. But as far as what else I do is I think it's mostly just the ability to listen and narrow out. I'm basically a kinder, gentler Mick West. I'm less immediately.
He's pretty
offensive.
gentle, I got to say. He seems like
he is.
Guy.
It's just it's that British demeanor of like, no, you're wrong because
right.
Which people don't particularly care for right off the bat, because nobody likes like, no, you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. It's like, no, it's just a mistake. This is probably, I throw a lot of probablys and chances are this is a kind of thing. Leave myself a little room for doubt in there, but it's sometimes difficult because people really do want to believe in like whatever their picture is or their video or whatever their experience. If they're being open-minded about it, they'll at least take a differing opinion. And maybe what they the light they saw, it might have been the International Space Station, it might have been a meteorite, it might have been but if you can go through all those things and look it all up and verify, and it's none of those things that you can research, it is technically an unidentified flying object. So you got that, it's not the normal things. So if that helps or hinders them in their follow through with whatever it is they experienced, they at least have that knowledge. At least that's where I come at it from. So
love it. I've got DJ. He's with us. He made it.
The great cat hunter.
Yes.
Cat.
Chances are.
Oh, yeah.
So you found the cat. Oh, he's beautiful.
Hey guys.
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Let's see. Can we see the catastrophic damage? Oh my God.
Oh.
What a catastrophe.
Wow. Oof.
Catastrophe.
Hey, he beat me to it.
We got Percy out of the wall, but he got himself out. I don't know how he got out, but he was out. So,
You're like, you cat.
Jeez, man. Well, I'm glad he's okay.
8 lives left.
yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, thank you. You're right. But anyway, so I'll sleep easy tonight, and I just want to say one love to Jess and Enzo. And I know you guys are being well cared for with the cab team. And great night. Love you guys.
Oh,
Good to
thanks,
see
man.
you.
Take it easy,
Yeah,
DJ.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
Peace,
Take
brother.
care, man.
Awesome.
Good news.
I really think cats can teleport. That's just how do they get into the wall and then mysteriously out of the wall?
It's a very good question. Getting some echo from somebody. I'm not sure who that is, but all
I'm gonna push mutants.
right, we shall push forward. Yeah, everything sounding good now? Yep, good. Okay. Excellent. Jess, well, I want to get your thoughts on that question. So, what are the things that you try to do? I know you're an excellent host, and you, by the way, are a top-notch interviewer. Like, how do you, you do a great job setting the table for conversation, but how do you elevate that conversation and, kind of push things forward in a positive way?
I don't know, man. Maybe I don't. I'm like sitting here. Maybe I don't offer a GD thing. I'm like, man, I just try to, go and talk to people that I want to talk to, that I find interesting, that I think people will get some value from the conversation, and I think honestly, you can talk to anybody and you get something beautiful out of them, even from I did like Tommy Chong and he told me a spiritual story. You can get things like that out of people, you can talk, you can have it. I think it's the art of conversation that I love, and the back and forth, and being able to be comfortable and get the guests comfortable to really share and feel like they're talking to their friend, because ultimately all my guests become my friends anyways.
Nice.
But I just try to keep it positive. I guess I could try to close. I always try to close with something positive, even if I'm on a conspiratorial type of rant. Always want to leave it on an up note.
Yeah, you got to. Well, on that note, then, what interesting conspiracies are kind of catching your eye these days?
Oh, so it's just always the big one, man. Just the elite. There's elite people controlling everything behind the scenes, and we have no say in that, and we're just kind of stuck in the system, just doing our best. And I think that's the biggest conspiracy of them all. And it's a real conspiracy because people are working together to, control things.
Yeah. Well, we do find ourselves in a world not of our own making. We land here basically, and then things are happening and things are orderly or disorderly, and we have very little personal control over the grander story of what takes place on our planet. That's very appealing, right? But I guess how do you kind of process the sort of far end of that notion, which is like this cabal, this 0.1% of the world, really the puppet masters. We can hate on the rich, and I think that's great sometimes. But do you think they really get together in a boardroom somewhere in a forest and plan things out, or what is happening?
I mean, even if you go back to Europe, all the kings were related. They're all friends. These leaders, they all know each other. They all party together. It's portrayed in the media as if they're against each other, but then they're at dinner parties hanging out. So I don't think it's that far of a stretch that these world leaders get together, and there are people that are behind the scenes that are probably giving them a lot of money that help control what is being done. So I mean, how do I stay positive with all that? Is what can you do? People are either aware, they want to be aware, they don't want to be aware. But two, in the opening of my show, I have a sound clip that says I choose to see the beauty in the world, because there is a lot of dark crap in this world, and you can get sucked into it looking into conspiracies, and you can also see the beautiful things in this world, and realize that, hey, maybe it's not so bad.
Love that. Enzo, what about you?
What's the big conspiracy?
I mean, you worked for the man at one point, right? So,
you're part of the conspiracy, Enzo.
I am part of the conspiracy now. I am now everyone. I am the internet's emergency standby guest now because of it. But from working on the inside, being part of the government for 24 years, my opinion about as far as that kind of stuff goes back to Hanlon's razor. Kind of an idea, never attribute to malice what could adequately be explained by stupidity.
Right.
It's just I saw a lot of dumb people that would just, anytime you have that bureaucracy, there's those levels of it. There's people that just kind of get locked in there, and all they care about is keeping their job. They don't care about helping out their fellow constituents or humanity or anything like that. They just want to keep their little job safe. And if that means throwing somebody under the bus or letting this bill go by or all these things, it's yeah, that's fine. Just do whatever you want. Just leave my stuff alone. Kind of an idea, which I saw a lot of. And it's to imagine that, there's the dark, smoky back room, the cabal of people back there, I don't know about that one. You know, I'm sure there are, you know, big meet. If anything, I would think it would be more like not necessarily political leaders nowadays, but big industrial and tech leaders doing something along those lines. Seeing how,
yeah, they operate internationally. I mean, they don't have these
Exactly.
state, you know, restrictions that
they don't have those silly laws to abide to necessarily. So I could see that, I think, before, you know, the secret DC cabal that controls the world. No, there's too many points of failure for that for me, that where somebody would come up and is like, wait a minute, you can't do that. You know, kind of a thing. There are, I mean, as an awful as a picture as I just painted, there are stopgaps in there to prevent, you know, global catastrophes and things like that. So there's still some. There are good people out there in the system. That's why the system still kind of works, because of those few good people that still believe in, you know, what goes on in their country and believe that they're working for their constituents and things like that. Because if all of them were in on it,
right,
then we'd never have a voice. We'd have never gotten, you know, stuff added in to create a new, you know, reporting center for the DoD and things like that for, you know, what we're looking at right now. I never imagined we'd have that kind of thing pop up, and to pop up over the last couple of years. I guess if there's going to be a conspiracy, that would be it for me. It's like, why now all of a sudden? Why is there like some, you know, evil alien cabal that has a specific timeline that, you know, the Oumuamua is going to circle back in a couple of years and we need to be prepared for it? I don't know about all that, but that's the thing that shocked me the most, that made me kind of rear my head. I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, exciting progress. All right, Deb, what you got?
So I guess I would like to know what you guys are most excited about when you've talked about citizen evidence coming forward. I know I'm excited about that, right? Of course, we have UAPX is supposed to be coming out really soon because their movie is about to come out, which means they have their NDA lifted and things are coming out. Galileo's been working on building their equipment and should start having something soon. What are you most excited about?
Let's go with Jess.
I haven't been following it, to be quite honest. And I'm not, I mean, it all sounds great. I'm not excited for one thing more than another.
What are what's next on your kind of on your show lineup? What topics are you chasing down right now?
What are we doing? I've got let's see. Well, on Monday I have Big Willie. That's going to be fun. Look at this here.
Love that beard.
Yeah, I love that beard. I do want to talk about his beard.
Is it that guy? Oh,
yeah. Whoa, there he just pops in.
Next Wednesday I have Les Valdez coming on, and he has an experiencer group. And then the following week I've got radio host Alex Exum coming on, and then I have Benjamin Balderson, who is an alchemist and he's going to be a really good, interesting show. If you don't know about alchemy, if you heard these words, it's definitely something you want to like come in and check out. This guy like knows this stuff, and he can explain it in a way to people who are totally unfamiliar with this topic.
That sounds fascinating.
It's going to be so cool. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, definitely. We'll check that out. Enzo, what's got on your radar?
As far as Deb's original question was, we wanted to what we were looking forward out of the civilian side. Was that the question?
Yeah, well, in general, it can be government side also. But what are you excited about? I forgot one major one, but maybe you'll think of it. What are you excited about?
As far as coming out of Galileo and UAPX, I don't know the full scope of what they're specifically investigating. Obviously, there's going to be some visual component involved there. I'd like to see that's mostly what I'm looking forward to, is what was it that they're using? What equipment are they using? Where were they using it? What gave them the idea to like point their stuff this direction or whatever it is? I'm almost more curious about what their process is than because even if they found nothing, that still checks stuff off of the list. It's like, okay, they didn't find anything in the infrared spectrum or the ultraviolet or violet. And I guess it would be ultraviolet too.
Could be.
They weren't aggressive, but it's still things that, even if you didn't find something, that doesn't mean that you can, it's still evidence, so to speak, for at this stage of it, where we're basically pawing around in the dark to start off with. So anything they come up with, good or bad, it's like we found zero evidence of this for, in this spectrum or this particular radio range. We did find some similar activity when we would see anomalous lights, or, it's those kind of things I'm most curious about. What their processes and techniques and technology they're using to find it.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about that is they actually just said in a conference that they had, the SEU and UAPX were meeting and talking about some things. They just spoke about how finding these UAPs or finding evidence of UAPs is actually scientifically interesting in general. And you might really appreciate the part where they were talking about it's good for anyone who is interested in space and astronomy anyway, because they're exploring new techniques for looking at those things. So there's benefit, and I'm hoping they'll get the funding beyond just the UAP topic. So it's great stuff. But it was Webb. I thought you were going to say Webb, but
James Webb, man. As a Star fan, you got to be chomping at the bit.
Oh yeah, it's to get to for the things that'll come up with, that'll change everything we know. It'll hopefully answer a lot of questions that we have about space in general, because there's that huge specter of dark matter hanging over cosmology at the point of like, well, the math, because we're pretty good at figuring out the math on like the solar system level. We're pretty good at shooting out probes, and we've measured the gravity of planets to where we can slingshot probes around them to get it to go faster to reach the outer planets. We were doing that in the 60s and 70s. But it doesn't really scale up outside of that when you start getting into the galaxy range, here, where it should work, but it doesn't. It's like there's a lot of mass that's missing. So they just labeled it dark matter. And it's like, well, wait, what does that mean? We don't know. So there's things like anything that we can get to kind of narrow that focus down and kind of make up for this mass that appears to be missing. That's what gets us closer to figuring out like warp drives and things like that. I won't say they're holding us back. I mean, it's just the natural evolution of discovery. But that's, to me, I think that's one of the next bigger steps, is figuring that out, because that will lead to other innovations of how to measure it and deal with it and travel through it.
Yeah. Completely. I love that iterative process, right? I love that these new discoveries just beget further discoveries. Oh yeah. We're never satisfied, and I find it interesting. Like some people, it's like some people just like they're done. You meet some folks, and the way the world is right now, like they're fine with that. There's no more to learn. There's no more discovery. It's good. It seems like most of the folks in this community are not happy with that. We would like to learn more. Well, Kev, I remember you teasing earlier something about a lightning round, and I'm excited about that.
Okay, we'll get to it. All right. So I'm gonna ask you some questions. I want you to answer. Who is your daddy and what does he do? Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just ask the question and I'll call on you guys one-on-one. So these are yes and no questions. Yes or no answers. Okay. So question number 1. Do you think the pyramids were built by aliens, Jess?
No.
Enzo?
Built by? No.
Okay. Do you think a portion of UFO crashes are from irresponsible, drunk extraterrestrial pilots? Jess?
Yes.
Enzo?
Definitely.
Yes.
All right. Oh, I like that. Okay, so do you think that wearing a disguise to bed will prevent alien abductions, Jess?
I don't think so, but I think it's worth a shot.
I like it. Endorsement. Enzo?
I'm going to go for a fake mustache. But
It's
All right.
me.
I don't think that would help.
Okay. That's all right. I forgive you. Jess, do you believe in an afterlife?
Yes.
Enzo.
Yes.
Okay. Jess, do you collect what? Okay. Do you collect stamps?
No.
Okay. Enzo, do you collect stamps?
Only to send out the one bill that I can't electronically use. That's the only reason I still even have stamps.
I don't know why that one was on there. Okay. Are you good with handling live insects, Jess?
No.
Oh, Enzo?
I don't have an issue with it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Do you think extraterrestrial insects are communicating to us, Jess?
Or this is like the one I can't. Oh, I hope not.
Oh, you can have a middle answer. You can say middle.
Yeah, because I'm
Gray.
scared of like the whole thought of like massive mantid beings and insects
Yes.
frightens me.
So, okay. How about you, Enzo? Do you think they're communicating to us, the bug people?
And we just can't understand it, or they're
Possibly.
through like cricket song or something like that.
Yeah, I
that-
mean,
that could
in
be.
theory,
I mean,
you think they could be.
and that is possible. It's just
Cool.
Even if you want to go electronically, they could be sending something in towards us that might be common for them. Then we just haven't figured out how to decode it yet.
That's true. It's true. So, the next question: have you ever eaten an insect, Jess?
Not on purpose.
Oh, so possibly. Enzo?
No,
Okay.
not on purpose.
Well, okay, that might be all right then. You guys might be okay with the invasion. Okay. So, would you voluntarily be abducted by alien insects?
No.
Yes. Okay. No. Man,
No.
I'm
That was
disappointed.
a strong no. Yeah.
I'm down, but Enzo, how about you?
Depends on the context of the abduction. If they're just dropping
Oh.
by to say hi and want to have a conversation, I'm all for it.
Okay.
I would totally be for that.
Yeah, just
The-
a social calling,
I'd totally sure. I would absolutely do that.
Cool.
My
That's
issue
awesome.
is always what comes later. So
Well, that's really up to them. If they're down for a vivisection, would you be down for one?
I would have to draw the line not across my abdomen. For that.
Okay. I like the pun. That was good. Oh, okay. Next question, Jess. Are you an extraterrestrial?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enzo?
Aren't we all?
Oh,
Possibly. That's up for a whole nother episode right there, man.
shoot.
The iron in your blood came from a star that
Right.
exploded in billions of years
Oh,
ago.
okay. Yeah,
There
if
you
you
go.
want to go there. The
We're
astrology.
all star stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting too deep for me, buddy. This is a yes or no
Oh.
question. Okay, you're over my head here. You're gonna knock off my new headset with all that. Okay. So the next
The
question
lights are
is.
starting to dim. So.
Oh, wait a minute. Enzo, are you an extraterrestrial? Because I thought you were a cyborg at first, but
Oh no,
maybe not.
this is Enzo Prime, but I have Enzo clones that go to other
Okay.
shows. That's why I can watch all of them and be everywhere all at once.
That's what I figured. All right. How about you, Jess? Do you have trouble getting pickles from jars? This is a DJ
Yes.
question. You
Yes.
do,
I do.
DJ. She may be one of them.
That's right. It's the
Mhm.
alien test.
Yeah. Enzo, how about you? How are you with pickles, buddy? Come on now.
When your quantity of pickles gets below the pickle juice line, just
Yeah.
pour out some of the juice and you can get to them much
You
easier.
have a method. I use tools. I use a fork personally.
You're
But,
right.
I'm a fork guy.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's really okay. Jess, did you cry during Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
I watched that movie. Oh, yes or no question. I know. No.
I mean, if you have a tangent coming, please talk. That's the point of this. If I can prompt you to say something, that's cool.
I watched the movie on Weird Hollywood with UFO Jane probably like a month or two ago. So
Right.
we did a watch.
Which is a great show, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you very much. But I was watching it. I was like, so this is the story of a man that becomes obsessed with UFOs, that he leaves his family to go on a spaceship
Yes.
to take off.
Yeah.
And so once I kind of broke it down, I couldn't stop laughing when I thought about that.
Yeah, he just didn't have the guts to get the divorce. You know, he just had to.
Yeah. Blame the aliens.
That other lady who had her son abducted. I'm like, what the hell?
That's right. It's funny. I just watched that recently. My wife had never seen it. I was like, you've got to watch this. So we watched it, and in part because some of the folks we've talked to on the show have been like, there's more to that movie than, like Spielberg was really plugged in, basically.
Yes.
Elizondo has said this, and Richard Doty said this to us as well. And when I watched it, it was crazy, guys. I mean, you've seen it recently, Jess, so but like so much that's in that movie is stuff that we're talking about, like the orbs and the, kind of paranormality and the compulsion that people have to do certain things, the abductions, there are even like little nuggets in there that I hadn't ever picked up on before. Like there's one scene where they're going into like a secure facility. Guy puts his hand on this plate, and it's like the Bob Lazar scanner thing.
Oh, right.
I thought about that too. I was like, I didn't think about that before watching it, but now when I watch, I saw the hand scanner. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And then like Doty said something. He said this before, and I know he's a divisive figure, but he talked about how the truth, quote unquote, would really be transformative of the world, because like what would happen if hypothetically, like to put this way, hypothetically, Jesus was some sort of kind of extraterrestrial. He uses that figure. He's like, I'm not saying it was Jesus, but just if Jesus were so as I'm watching this movie, we had just done that interview, and there's a scene where they're in Roy's house. He's the guy that leaves his family, and the kids are going crazy. They're like jumping in the playpen, and like it just seems like totally chaotic. And the movie that they're trying to watch is the Ten Commandments. They're trying to watch the Ten Commandments, which is a long movie. But I thought that was a weird like nugget to put in the film. Like, why that movie? It just seemed really strange. So I was like, what if it was Moses? What if Moses was the ET? The whole like sea parting, and then the pillar of fire, and the food that kind of kept the Israelites alive in the wilderness, and all this kind of stuff. Of course, the commandments themselves, the first the tablets that on top of the mountain, where the burning bush. I mean, there's a lot of things in the Moses story that are pretty whack. Anyway, I took us on the tangent, Kev. So you bring
tangents are what this show is all about, man. That was fantastic.
That's what all of these shows are about. That's how you learn, really, because you don't know where that conversation is going.
Right. So if I can prompt a conversation with any of these random questions, absolutely, guys, please talk.
Okay.
All right. So Enzo, did you have any more about the Close Encounters? Did you cry?
I did not cry.
All right. So you guys get scared of the dark?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Jess? So okay. What about if you hear a knock at the window, and then you answer, and you think it's the wind, but then you see me going, just kidding.
Oh my God,
okay.
Kevin. But no, sometimes I convince myself that there's like something in the kitchen or something. I'm like, can't go out in the kitchen. Nope, not going out in the kitchen till tomorrow.
I do that. Yeah, it's like 2 a.m. You're like, oh, okay, no, I'm not that thirsty.
I'm not.
What is that fear? What's that about?
It's like somehow like dark in the kitchen. It's like there's something there.
Right. It's all
Do
good.
you not have lights in your house? Why are you stumbling around in the dark?
Oh, I'm just blind.
No, but think about it, right? You're holding your phone light, and you want to illuminate something that's in the dark before you get to the light switch, or do you go to the light switch so that the monster pops out?
Maybe the ghosts are being considerate. They're not turning on the lights. They're just trying to, do their thing. Keeping it dark.
Night vision.
Right? Yeah.
Very nice of them.
Very considerate.
Very considerate. Okay, so I'll jump ahead. Are we running out of time?
No, you got it, man. I think we're good. We got a few more minutes.
Okay.
Here.
Okay. Well, if we're good, then Jess and Enzo, Unexplained Scars. Jess.
I'm like, do I have one?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I do.
That's something to find out. I don't know. Enzo, were you experimented on by aliens? I mean, do you have any unexplained scars?
I do not have unexplained scars. All of my scars have explanations.
All right, Jess, you might have been Yeah, you might
That's
want to
my
look on
fear.
that, buddy.
That's my fear. Like, I don't know that I've been abducted like several times, and then like one day it's all gonna come like crashing back into my memory, and I'm like, no.
If it does, please tell us first.
I will.
1 in 50, they say.
Mm-hmm.
1 in
This-
50, really?
Yeah.
Yes, they did a poll, and also Preston Dennett also came up with the number similar. I think it was like 1 in 40 to 1 in 50.
True. I don't know, but I believe Deb. She's our facts person.
Mm-hmm.
I always believe that.
Yes.
Yep. That's crazy though. 1 in 50.
So maybe it's you, Kevin.
I will
Good.
say, just from a statistical standpoint, it wasn't a big enough sample size for me to be happy with that. Just
Aw.
had to throw that in there.
Okay.
Love that. Yep.
I
For the
mean-
record.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, how about you, Jess? Would you get into a Tic Tac full of Grays that you just met at a party?
I mean, are they? What kind of like are they? The cuter looking grays? Are they the more like kind of scary, like dead-eyed grays?
Enzo. I'm just kidding. That was me.
If they were all skinny Bob, would you be okay?
Gosh,
with it?
I guess you'd have a mix of cute and scary, just like people, in real life.
What kind of party was it too? That's the question. I
Yeah,
have.
Were they at the party? Had they been
They,
drinking?
well, of course, that's
They
why
may
they
not
have
be-
all these crashes. So
They may not be. They may not be good to drive. I'd have
Okay.
questions.
Okay. If Benji said it's Paul, so if it's like Paul the alien, yes, I would go.
All right.
away.
Okay, cool. All right, so both of you are down with Paul. All right, cool. So, Star Wars. Oh, here you go. Do you like Star Wars better than Star Trek, Jess?
Yes, 100%. I do not like Star Trek. I have tried to watch it. People are telling me, Jess, you got to watch it. But I grew up on Star Wars. I'm very Star Wars centric. I just never connected with Star Trek. Maybe I will now, but I don't know.
Just
Star
give it a
Wars.
chance. It's fun. It's good fun.
There's a Star Trek for everybody. There's like 5.
That's true.
Definitely.
That's
Enzo,
true.
how about you?
I would say I'm probably current year they both kind of stink, but
It's true.
I would have to say I would probably be more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan.
Trekking. All right.
Nice.
Cool. All right. I had you pinned for a Trekkie anyway.
I always
Yeah.
wanted to be Scotty.
Yeah.
Nice.
Scotty, the engineer. All right.
Yep.
Cool. I always wanted to be Kirk,
Mm,
Yeah.
he's great.
That's
I know
cool.
who he is.
Dude.
I can't believe he just turned 90. That just blows
I'm-
my mind. that He's
Have you met him?
William
Any of you
Shatner.
guys?
No.
I
never
think
met.
I saw him at Alien Con a couple years ago. I didn't get close to him, but he was there promoting the show for History Channel. But yeah,
man.
but I did not I saw him on a stage, like he was like that big, so I didn't see him. But
Have you
saw him.
seen Galaxy Quest?
I
That's
love
great.
Galaxy Quest. It's
Yeah.
one
Pretty good.
I was
Very
going to
good.
say, I think I want to be Sigourney Weaver, but then I also want to be Sigourney Weaver and Aliens. And I
Right.
feel like that's like could be like your breakthrough into Star Trek. Watch it first, then get inspired.
I love Galaxy Quest. It's one of those movies that
Good
I
transition.
keep watching. It's like got a rewatch value, and I really appreciate it, so I watch it all the
Mhm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a good idea, Deb. Yeah.
Thank you. I will
It's a good
try.
halfway point.
Ease you
It's
into
got
it.
the
Yeah, it's
humor
really
in
good.
it too. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Love that
Are-
movie.
Yeah, it's great. All right. Yeah, that's about all I got. So
Well, that was fantastic.
yes, thank you. I mean, well, thank you. I didn't just agree with you for saying that. All right.
Love it, love it. Well, all right, we're wrapping up the show, so I want you guys to tell the audience and our listeners, where can they find your work, and who to avoid. No, I'm just kidding. Where can they find what you're doing, and any advice you would give to folks that are getting into this topic and for the first time? What would you offer there?
I guess for advice, I would never put anybody on a pedestal when you're looking at researching things, different things different topics. Always look at try to expand at everything you look at. Don't take anybody's word for gospel, and use your critical thinking skills. it's a lot of fun too. And I think a lot of the times people forget that this is supposed to be fun too, guys. We're supposed to be having fun with this. And I would say have fun, research, learn what you want to do, learn what you want to talk about and follow that, because there's so many areas within this phenomenon that you can talk about. So I'll say that. And I want to thank you so much for having me on tonight. Wonderful questions. It was an honor to be a guest tonight and hang out with Enzo. And everybody can find me. You can check out my website, escapethesimulation.info. There, I have my show archives. You can find me on YouTube. I'm also live every Wednesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific on the fringe.fm. You can catch me there. We have a Discord chat for all the listeners.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's about it. Just great time. Love the questions. Awesome time. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, same.
Me too. You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming. It was nice and relaxed. I already know you guys, so yeah, no pressure.
It was fun.
I had a lot of fun.
It's always fun hanging out with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
All right, Enzo. So what advice would you have? You've got a lot of wisdom, I feel like, to offer here.
Yes.
Well, for me, because I haven't been in the UFO YouTube circles all that long. I guess it was last September, October, I started kind of snooping around, and I first found UCR for me, which, coming from a nuts and bolts side, they're fairly evidence-based in some of their topics and stuff like that. I felt like that was a good entry point for me. And every time that they would have someone else, another YouTuber on their show, I would go and check out their content. That's actually how I found Jess.
Yes.
I found Jess first, I think, and then I found UFO Jane. And because I followed her, because of the timing, she had like a Halloween party and invited a ton of other YouTuber friends on there. And I was just hit subscribe, follow, subscribe. And that's kind of how it all spider webbed out for me. So there's plenty of content out there and plenty of different takes on different topics, and there's more than enough room for everybody for this topic and platform for everybody's specific take. None of the compared to other channels about movies or TV or sports or anything like that, none of them are gigantic channels. But to be honest, those smaller platforms I feel are a lot better, especially because a lot of them interact directly with the chat. So your question may actually get answered if you ask something from the chat versus those larger channels where are more popular, but you only get that answer if you do a super chat or something like that.
Yeah,
so
love that.
it's usually how it ends up being. But if anyone wants to follow me, I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Full disclosure, I don't understand Instagram. I don't know how it works.
I'm figuring it out. Finally.
Anything like that, I don't get it. But I mostly post space related stories and things like that on Twitter when I do. A lot of solar activity lately, which has meant a ton of different aurora photos. And I threw out a bunch this morning. So
cool. A
lot of fun.
Fantastic.
I find Instagram awkward because doing selfies right now, it's like, which angle of my avatar?
It's true, Deb. There's only one dimension at the moment. Yeah. Well, speaking of the community, I just wanted to highlight some of the folks that were with us this evening. So big shout out to Stuart, who mentioned the community as well. Of course, Benji, who we all know and love, and the Cornish Conjuring, Oracles and Beyond.
Thank you, Cassie.
Cat 1137. We know Cat. Love Cat.
Enzo is club.
Arlene Adkazel.
Arlene.
Of course, Akashi Chris, our dear friend. And Zeta Pop. Cab's the best. Thank you, Zeta Pop. Thank you very much. Last but certainly not least, Paranormal Pixie. Laura, thank you for being with us this evening. We're all big fans of Paranormal.
Thank you, Laura. Big fan.
So wonderful show, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to continuing to interact with you guys in the community and stay on top of what y'all are doing. Thanks so much for being with us. And with that, and in lieu of DJ doing the outro like he normally does, for me, Nathan, for Kevin, for Enzo, for Jess, for Deb, this is Calling All Beings. Peace out, one love, and we will see you down the road. Peace.